Ever wondered why you make a New Year's resolution, stick with it for a week, and then fall right back into old habits? Or why starting a new project feels like pushing a boulder uphill? It's not a lack of willpower. It's your brain's fundamental, hardwired resistance to change. This ancient survival mechanism, designed to keep you safe in a predictable world, is now the biggest obstacle to your growth. In this video, we're not just going to explore why your brain fights change so fiercely. We're diving deep into the hidden science of neuroplasticity to give you actionable, science-backed strategies to reprogram your mind, overcome that resistance, and finally make lasting transformations. Welcome to VF Growth Tutorials. That feeling of being stuck, of wanting to change but feeling an invisible force holding you back, is a universal human experience. It's frustrating, demotivating, and can make you feel like you're failing. But what if I told you that this resistance is a biological feature, not a personal flaw? Your brain is a masterpiece of efficiency, designed to automate behaviors and conserve energy. It creates superhighways for your habits and routines, making the familiar feel easy and the new feel threatening. Today, we're going on a journey into the inner workings of your mind. We'll uncover the roles of the amygdala, your brain's fear center, and the prefrontal cortex, your seat of rational thought. We will explore the cognitive biases that keep you trapped, and, most importantly, we will unlock the incredible power of neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to change itself. We'll arm you with a toolkit of practical techniques to consciously rewire these neural pathways. If you're ready to stop fighting against your own mind and start working with it to build the life you want, you're in the right place. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our deep dives into personal growth. And please tap the like button to help us reach more people like you. The biology of resistance, your brain's ancient survival code. To understand how to change your brain, you first need to appreciate why it resists change so vehemently. It all comes down to survival and efficiency. At the heart of this resistance is a small almond-shaped structure deep in your brain called the amygdala. This is your emotional core, your primal alarm system. Its primary job is to scan the environment for threats and trigger the fight or flight response. To the amygdala, anything new or uncertain is a potential threat. The familiar, no matter how suboptimal, is known and therefore perceived as safe. When you try to step out of your comfort zone, whether it's public speaking, starting a new diet, or learning a new skill, your amygdala sounds the alarm. It floods your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, creating feelings of anxiety, fear, and discomfort. This is your brain screaming, "Danger! Retreat to what's known." This biological response is reinforced by the brain's fundamental principle of homeostasis. Your brain, like your body, strives for a stable, predictable internal environment. It works tirelessly to keep everything in equilibrium. Change, by its very nature, is a disruption to this equilibrium. It introduces new variables and forces the brain to expend a massive amount of energy to process new information, create new connections, and adapt. This leads us to the second pillar of resistance: energy conservation. Your brain is the most energy-intensive organ in your body, consuming about 20% of your total calories, despite being only 2% of your body weight. To manage this incredible energy demand, it has evolved to be a master of efficiency. It does this by creating habits. Habits are, in essence, neurological shortcuts. They are behaviors that have been repeated so often that they become automated. This process is managed by a part of the brain called the basal ganglia. When a habit is formed, the decision-making part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, can essentially go offline for that task. Think about driving a familiar route to work. You don't consciously think about every turn, every gear shift. Your basal ganglia runs the driving to work program automatically, freeing up your conscious mind to think about other things. These habits form physical, well-trodden neural pathways in your brain, like deep grooves in a record. Trying to do something new is like trying to force the needle out of that groove and onto a blank part of the record. It requires significant conscious effort and therefore a lot of metabolic energy. Your brain, being inherently lazy in the name of efficiency, will always prefer the path of least resistance, the existing habit. So, when you try to change, you're not just fighting a psychological preference. You're fighting a deeply ingrained biological imperative for safety, stability, and energy conservation. It's a system designed over millennia to keep you alive, and it's not going to give up its control without a fight. Understanding this isn't an excuse, but an explanation. It's the critical first step in learning how to work with your brain's nature, rather than against it. The cognitive traps. How your own thoughts keep you stuck. Beyond the primal biology, your conscious mind also conspires to keep you in your comfort zone through a series of cognitive biases and mental traps. These are systematic patterns of deviation from norm or rationality and judgment, and they are incredibly powerful. One of the most significant is cognitive dissonance. This is the mental discomfort experienced when you hold two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values, or when your beliefs are contradicted by your actions. For example, you might believe you should be healthier, belief, but you continue to eat junk food, action. This creates a state of dissonance. To resolve this discomfort, your brain has two choices: change the behavior, the hard path, or change the belief, the easy path. More often than not, it chooses the latter. You'll rationalize your behavior. I had a stressful day, I deserve this. Or one burger won't hurt. Or I'll start my diet on Monday. This rationalization makes you feel better in the short term, but cements the old, undesirable behavior. Next up is confirmation bias. Our tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms or supports our pre-existing beliefs. If you believe that you're just not a morning person, you will actively notice and remember every morning you feel groggy, and will dismiss the mornings you wake up feeling fine. When you try to start waking up earlier, your brain will hunt for any piece of evidence that this new habit is a bad idea, reinforcing your old identity and pulling you back. Then there's the sunk cost fallacy. This is our tendency to continue with an endeavor if we have already invested time, money, or effort into it, whether or not the current costs outweigh the benefits. This applies to careers we no longer love, relationships that have run their course, or even habits that no longer serve us. The thought process is, I've been doing it this way for 10 years, I can't just change now. We become attached to the past investment rather than focused on the future outcome. The part of your brain responsible for overriding these biases is the prefrontal cortex, PFC, the seat of executive function, rational thought, and long-term planning. However, the PFC is easily fatigued. When you are stressed, tired, or hungry, its ability to regulate the more primitive, emotional parts of the brain and override these cognitive biases diminishes significantly. This is why your willpower seems to evaporate by the end of a long day, and you're more likely to fall back into old habits. These cognitive traps create a powerful feedback loop. Your biology makes change feel uncomfortable, and your cognitive biases then create a narrative that justifies staying put. Recognizing these thought patterns is like turning on a light in a dark room. It's the first step to disarming them. Before we move on to the solution for all this, the incredible science of neuroplasticity. If you're finding this breakdown of the brain's inner workings fascinating, do us a huge favor and hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to VF Growth Tutorials for more deep dives into the science of self-improvement. The ultimate hope, your brain's superpower of neuroplasticity. Now that we've painted a rather bleak picture of your brain's resistance, it's time for the game-changing good news. Your brain is not fixed. It is not a static, unchangeable piece of hardware. For decades, the prevailing scientific dogma was that the adult brain was largely set in stone after a critical period in childhood. But over the past few decades, a revolution in neuroscience has proven this wrong. The truth is, your brain has a remarkable lifelong ability called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's capacity to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. It allows the neurons in the brain to compensate for injury and disease and to adjust their activities in response to new situations, or to changes in their environment. The foundational principle of neuroplasticity is often summarized by the phrase coined by neuropsychologist Donald Hebb in 1949. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time you have a thought, feel an emotion, or perform an action, you are activating a specific set of neurons. When you repeat that thought, emotion, or action, the connections, or synapses, between those neurons become stronger and more efficient. Think of it like creating a path in a dense forest. The first time you walk it, it's difficult. You have to push through branches and thick undergrowth. But if you walk that same path every day, you start to wear down a trail. The grass gets trampled, the branches get pushed aside. Eventually, it becomes a wide, clear, easy-to-follow path. This is exactly what happens in your brain. Your habits, whether good or bad, are simply well-traveled neural pathways. The reverse is also true. Neurons that fire apart, wire apart. This process is known as synaptic pruning. When you stop practicing a certain behavior or thinking a certain thought, the neural pathway associated with it weakens. The path in the forest, if left unused, will eventually become overgrown and disappear. This dual process of strengthening new pathways and pruning old ones is the physical mechanism of change. It is how you learn, how you form memories, and how you can quite literally change your mind. The evidence for neuroplasticity is overwhelming. One of the most famous studies involved London taxi drivers. To earn their license, they must memorize the knowledge, the complex layout of 25,000 streets in London. MRI scans revealed that these drivers have a significantly larger hippocampus, the brain region associated with spatial memory, compared to the general population. Their brains physically changed to accommodate the demands of their job. Similarly, studies on musicians show they have larger areas of the brain dedicated to motor control, hearing, and hand-eye coordination. Even more profoundly, neuroplasticity is the reason stroke victims can regain lost functions. Other parts of the brain can learn to take over the roles of the damaged areas, forming new pathways to control speech or movement. This isn't just a concept, it's a physical reality. You are the architect of your brain. Every single day, with every choice you make, you are either reinforcing old neural pathways or creating new ones. The resistance you feel is the initial difficulty of forging that new path in the forest. But the science of neuroplasticity guarantees that if you persist, the new path will become easier, and eventually, it will become the default. The Reprogramming Toolkit. Practical strategies for intentional rewiring. Understanding neuroplasticity is one thing, applying it is another. So let's move from theory to practice with a toolkit of science-backed strategies to consciously direct your brain's rewiring process. Strategy 1. The power of micro-habits. Remember how the amygdala freaks out at big scary changes? We can bypass this alarm system by making the change so small it's almost laughable. This is the concept of micro-habits, or kaizen, the Japanese philosophy of continuous improvement. Instead of resolving to meditate for 30 minutes every day, your micro-habit is to sit on the meditation cushion for 1 minute. Instead of write a book, it's write one sentence. These tiny actions are so non-threatening that they fly under the amygdala's radar. They don't trigger the fear response, so you don't feel that overwhelming resistance. Yet, they are incredibly powerful for two reasons. First, they build momentum. It's much easier to meditate for 5 minutes once you're already sitting on the cushion. Second, and more importantly, each time you perform the micro-habit, you are firing the neurons for that new behavior. You are beginning to forge that new path in the forest. You are casting a vote for your new identity. Over time, these tiny, consistent actions build strong neural pathways, making the new behavior automatic. Strategy 2. Mindful awareness. If your automatic, subconscious thoughts are keeping you stuck, the solution is to bring them into conscious awareness. This is the practice of mindfulness, often cultivated through meditation. Mindfulness trains you to observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. It's like sitting on the bank of a river and watching the leaves, your thoughts, float by, rather than being swept away by the current. From a neurological perspective, mindfulness does two amazing things. It strengthens your prefrontal cortex, the rational, executive part of your brain, and it simultaneously calms the amygdala, your reactive fear center. It effectively changes the balance of power in your brain, giving you more conscious control over your impulses and emotional reactions. Regular mindfulness practice helps you notice the cognitive biases we discussed earlier as they happen. You can catch the rationalizations and the confirmation bias in the act, and by simply observing them, you rob them of their power. You begin to see that your thoughts are not commands. They are merely suggestions, and you can choose which ones to follow. Strategy 3. Visualization and mental rehearsal. Your brain often has a hard time distinguishing between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you mentally rehearse an action, you activate many of the same neural circuits that are used when you physically perform it. This is a powerful tool for reprogramming. Elite athletes have used this for decades. A basketball player will visualize making the perfect free throw hundreds of times. A skier will mentally rehearse their entire run before they even get on the slope. This practice primes the brain, strengthening the neural pathways for the desired behavior before you even take physical action. It's like clearing the path in the forest with a mental machete before you take your first step. To use this, Take a few minutes each day to close your eyes and vividly imagine yourself successfully performing your new habit. Engage all your senses. What do you see? What do you hear? How does it feel? The more detailed and emotionally charged the visualization, the more effective it will be at rewiring your brain for success. We're halfway through our toolkit, and these are powerful techniques. If you're ready to put them into practice, let us know in the comments which one you'll try first. And if you're enjoying this guide, please hit subscribe and like the video. It truly helps the channel grow and allows us to create more content like this for you. Advanced reprogramming, environment, identity, and language. Once you've mastered the foundational techniques, you can move on to 3 of the most powerful levers for change: redesigning your environment, upgrading your identity, and shifting your language. Strategy 4. Architect your environment. As humans, we are profoundly influenced by our surroundings. Your environment is filled with cues that trigger your habits, often without your conscious awareness. Willpower is a finite resource, so instead of relying on it to resist temptation, you can become an architect of your environment to make your desired behaviors the easiest and most obvious choice. This concept, popularized by James Clear in Atomic Habits, is about increasing the friction for bad habits and decreasing it for good ones. If you want to eat healthier, don't just try to resist the cookies in your pantry. Get them out of your house. Place a bowl of fresh fruit on the counter where you can see it. If you want to read more, put a book on your pillow. If you want to watch less TV, unplug it after each use and put the remote in another room. Each of these small environmental changes automates your decision-making in favor of your goals. You're not fighting a battle of willpower every moment. You're creating a space where the right choice is the path of least resistance. This extends to your social environment. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you want to change, surround yourself with people who embody the habits and mindset you aspire to. Their behaviors and beliefs will become your new normal, creating a social current that pulls you in the right direction. Strategy 5. Forge an identity-based habit. This is perhaps the most profound shift you can make. Most people approach change from a performance-based perspective. I want to stop smoking. Or I want to lose weight. The problem is that this frames the change as a struggle, an act of deprivation. An identity-based approach focuses on who you want to become. The goal is not to quit smoking. It's to become a non-smoker. The goal isn't to run a marathon. It's to become a runner. This might seem like a subtle semantic shift, but its psychological impact is enormous. When your behavior is in conflict with your identity, it feels wrong. A person who identifies as healthy will find it much harder to skip a workout or eat junk food because it contradicts their sense of self. Each time you perform a habit that aligns with your desired identity, every time you choose the salad, go for a run, or write that one sentence, you are casting a vote for that identity. You are providing evidence to your brain that this is who you are now. This reframes the entire process. You're no longer forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do. You're simply acting in alignment with who you are. To apply this, define the person you want to become. What are their values? What are their daily habits? Then start taking small actions that prove this new identity to yourself. Strategy 6. Master the language of change. The words you use, both internally in your self-talk and externally in your conversations, literally shape your reality. Your brain has a filtering mechanism called the reticular activating system, RAS. Its job is to sort through the billions of bits of data you're exposed to every second and only show you what it deems important. And what does it deem important? Whatever you focus on. Your language directs the focus of your RAS. If you constantly say, "I'm so bad with money," your RAS will diligently scan your experience for evidence to prove that right. You'll notice every financial mistake and ignore every success. If you instead say, "I am learning to be a master of my finances," your RAS will start pointing out opportunities to learn, save, and invest. Pay close attention to your vocabulary. Replace "I have to go to the gym" with "I get to move my body and build my strength." One implies a chore, the other an opportunity. Replace "this is a problem" with "this is a challenge." Replace "I can't" with "how can I?" This isn't about toxic positivity. It's about using language as a tool to direct your brain's focus toward solutions and possibilities, rather than limitations and problems. By mastering your environment, identity, and language, You create a powerful, self-reinforcing system that makes change not just possible, but inevitable. So we've journeyed deep into the brain, from the primal fear reactions of the amygdala to the incredible, lifelong potential of neuroplasticity. We've seen that the resistance you feel to change isn't a sign of weakness. It's a feature of a brain designed for survival and efficiency. But we've also learned that you are not a slave to this ancient programming. You are the architect. By understanding the rules of your own mind, you can begin to systematically rewrite them. Remember the key strategies. Start with micro habits to bypass fear. Use mindfulness to gain conscious control. Prime your brain for success with visualization. Become the architect of your environment. Adopt an identity that pulls you forward. And use language that empowers you. Change is not an event. It's a process of forging new neural pathways, one small action at a time. The next time you feel that pull back to the familiar, remember this. You have the tools to rewire your brain and build a new default. If this video gave you a new perspective on personal change, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to VF Growth Tutorials, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new tutorial. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's one change you're working on? Sharing your journey can inspire others. And finally, if you know someone who's struggling to make a change, share this video with them. Let's grow together.